first webinar that inspires. I'm Aditi Nirvan, a transformation mentor, a therapist, an artist, and an entrepreneur. These are just some of the hats that I don. Uh, the reason for me doing this webinar today is so that I am able to give back to a lot of people that seem to have a crazy number of questions about how to deal with this insane time. And just a second, I have somebody who is not on mute. Let me just mute them. Okay. So I have a lot of people during this time who have been asking me a lot of questions on how to deal with various issues that have cropped up for them. And what seems to be the most common at this point of time is relationships, because they have never spent this amount of time with their families or loved ones. And many of them are finding that they are either much closer to the people that they have been living with for so long, or they're actually much farther from them and they don't really quite know what to do and how to deal with the situation. So based on a lot of the questions that I have received and a lot of asking for support that I have received from people, these are the topics that I have chosen for this month. And there are about 5 topics. Fortunately, for the month of August, we have 5 weekends, so we can tackle these 5 topics. And the first of which today is having hard conversations. Um, Having hard conversations is really the reason why I have chosen that, is because when we are not being absolutely truthful and honest with the people we love, and we're not speaking from a space where we're acknowledging what we are feeling, and we are not expressing that in the right way, in the correct way that it's received well, we tend to have a relationship that is based on a lot of lies. And then we are not seen correctly, we are not heard correctly. And correctly meaning not the right way, but correctly meaning that we're not seen for who we really are as people. And isn't that one of the reasons why we ever get into a relationship? Because we'd like the person in front to truly understand who we are and what we are. And for us to have someone who has a close-up view on our life story, and someone who's there for us all the time. So let's dive right in. I have a lot of notes for today, so you might, that I'm a little more organized for you guys. So okay, so I have noticed many times, at least in my life and for people around me, that there are just some people that we're very, very comfortable with having in our life. And we wonder why we feel so comfortable with them. I mean, is it that the person is very open, or is one second, there's somebody here. Azimuddin, can I please ask you to mute yourself and shut your video for now? Okay. So, sorry, where was I? Yeah, so no, just hang on a second. There's something wrong in the system. Mm, Okay, yes, thank you. Great. Where was I? Okay. So we find that we have some people in our lives that we feel very comfortable with. And I've often wondered why. When you speak to them, there's a sense of ease about them. And we actually can say pretty much anything and be okay with it. We feel that we're not being judged by them. And there doesn't seem to be resistance, there doesn't seem to be drama. So, what is it? I mean, are they just more open? Are they just less reactive to us? Do these people create a good space in which we can communicate with them? Are they transparent and honest? And when I spoke to a lot of people about this, I understood that we mostly feel comfortable with a lot of people with whom we know exactly where we stand, meaning that when they have clarity in the way they come with us in our life, and there is no ambiguity, uh, we are very, very clear where we stand with them and in their life. And those are the people that there is tremendous ease with, because when we have ambiguity, meaning that there is no clarity in what this connection really is, that creates a lot of chaos, and then that leaves room for tremendous amount of drama. So how do we become one of those people that we are comfortable in our own space with who we are, and we are also able to extend that kind of comfort to other people in our life, so that they also feel that there is ease in being with us, in living with us, in communicating with us. um, it's not easy, let me put that out first, but when you get through it and you get to that place where you can actually be vulnerable with people, it becomes the easiest zone in the world to be with. In fact, you wonder how you were before you were this. Um, like for example, I have a couple of friends in my life with whom earlier there would be a lot of refraining from saying things, because there would be something like, okay, so the example is that one of my friends had an issue with me, and she decided to not just talk to me for a while. And this is a really, really old friend. I've known her for about 20 years. And when I understood that there's something that's gone wrong, the only thing that I did, I really wanted her to know something, that I messaged her because she wasn't taking my calls. And I just messaged her, hey, you really mean the world to me. I value the last 20 years that I've had, and I want to value the next 50 years we may have. And this connection with you is so strong because you have supported me and contributed to me in so many areas of my life. And the last thing I want to do is lose you. So please tell me what it is I have done to hurt you or to create any kind of grief or pain for you, and I will do everything in my ability to correct that. And I have left it out there for her to see, for her to experience. And being vulnerable is speaking your truth, is speaking what is it that you feel the most passionate about in that moment, and saying it with clarity to the other person, and then letting it go. The letting it go is a very, very critical part, because that's something that often a lot of people just kind of forget. They feel that, oh, I want this from this person, and then you try to like hammer them because you want that from them, and you will not let it go till they give it to you. That's not really vulnerability. That's you being a tyrant. That's being demanding and you being dominating in their lives. So let's get back to this. Let's get back to how to be vulnerable, because a lot of people don't understand what that is. It's going to require you to step a bit into something that is a little uncomfortable at the beginning. The reason why it's uncomfortable is because we often aren't completely vulnerable with ourselves. Okay. So, have you seen how children are? Kids are, they're just vulnerable 24/7. And I mean the little ones, till probably the age of, say, 7 or 8. Yeah. And some of them do manage to be vulnerable even in their preteens. Why am I talking about them? It's very simple. Kids come to you and they ask you something from a space of purity. They come because you see the sincerity on their face when they ask you something. They're vulnerable, they're open, they're clear, they're transparent, because when we are looking at them and they're asking us something, it's very clear as the day what it is that they really want. And if it's a truly vulnerable child, and if you say no to them, they're just going to be like, okay, and they'll go on with their lives. They're not going to hold on to it for a very long time. They may feel upset and they may just pout for a second, but that's really about it. These are kids that are really easy, and they're also kids who are very, very hard to say no to. So when you actually become 100% vulnerable, you also become a person to whom it's very, very hard for others to say no to. So if you state something or you ask something, more often than not, they'll say yes, because they see the sincerity. They see exactly where you're coming from. It's clear, it's transparent, and it's as open as the daylight. You're not hiding anything. They see there is no ulterior motive or agenda. In fact, I tell people that if you do have an ulterior motive or an agenda, state that first. Tell them, you know what, I want to spend time with you because I really like you, and I have this business that I think you would contribute to, and I really want to explore that possibility with you. I want to see how you can help me with my business, and you're just stating it right there, instead of doing something like, oh, let's have a coffee, let's meet sometime, and then not state your agenda at all. And then the person's going to sense it, because everybody is aware to a certain level. So my suggestion to most people is that state your agenda right upfront. Let them know that this is it. And trust me, most of the time, people are so happy to help you. It's very, very interesting how people just pop open, when they find that you are vulnerable. So if you've never been vulnerable with yourself, that is the first thing that you want to tackle. So, what does it mean to be vulnerable with you? So, this is the first point that we're going to talk about, that you're able to discern, you're able to understand, and you're able to label or call out exactly what it is that you're feeling. The interesting thing is, most people are not able to identify exactly what emotion they're experiencing. They mostly say something like, oh, I don't feel so good, or I don't feel right about this. This makes me uncomfortable. Or something like, I'm really suffocating in this relationship. But what it can actually mean is I'm unable to express exactly what I'm feeling right now. But all I know is I cannot do this and I cannot be with you, or whatever it is that you want to say. You may not know what emotion you're feeling. Okay. And that's fine. That happens to most of us. So the way to work about this is that, I'm experiencing something. I don't quite know what it is. I need a little bit of time to figure that out. That's honest. That's vulnerable. You can even say something like, I don't want to speak to you right now because I would like to speak to you when I'm feeling more happy about speaking to you. I'm not feeling very happy about speaking to you. I don't know exactly what it is, but just give me some time and I'll get to the bottom of it and I will come and share with you what it is. This connection is important enough for me to come to you and share with you. So you're telling them that you value them, you're telling them that there's something wrong, there's something off, and you're expressing to them what it is that you're feeling or not feeling. When you do get to the bottom of what it is that you're feeling, just call them up or meet them and express it. That, I feel really angry because when we meet, I feel I don't get a chance to speak. That I know I have an issue with speaking up. And you being my friend, I would really love if you can create a little bit of space for me to speak when you know fully well that I'm unable to talk. Yeah, I need your help in this. Can you help me to get over this? I never want to experience this with you again or with anybody else. So, if this is a person who's a friend or a lover, a partner, or a spouse, take their help. Talk to them, express to them, let them know, I suck at this. So, just help me with this. I don't like to feel this thing that I'm feeling right now. And that's vulnerability. Okay. Basically, vulnerability is 100% admittance, or 100% honesty with oneself in what one is feeling. It is identifying the emotion and then stating what content you have with it. So I am angry because, then comes the content. Yeah, because da 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 da, whatever has happened. So you go to simple things like, I'm angry, I'm sad, I feel unsafe, I'm anxious, I'm guilty, and then the reason underneath it. The thing is, I know that this sounds like something that we all ought to normally be doing, but we don't do it. So let's find out what are the things that we actually do instead of doing this. Okay. So then perhaps we can shed light in our own areas as to where we are not being vulnerable and we are being something else instead. So one of the biggest things that we do, and which is my personal favorite, is sulk. We sulk. Yeah. So when I'm sulking, what I realized is that I'm actually internalizing what's happening. It's like me taking a time out. I need to take that time out to figure out, okay, so what emotion am I feeling? Because I remember for the longest time in my life, I had no idea what emotion I was feeling. I just used to make these faces. And I know, not pretty, right? So I would sit in a corner, I'd just be like, mumbling under my breath, being angry, being upset, but not really quite understanding what the heck was going on, you know? So sulking is a major one. And I now label myself and I tell the person, okay, you know what? Not a good time to talk to you. I'm just being an incredible sulk right now. The Incredible Hulk. So the Incredible Sulk. Sulking is number one, what we do. What second thing we do instead of being vulnerable is we go into digital distraction. We get onto our phones, we probably watch Netflix or Prime or whatever, and we watch show after show, and we just go all out. We become addicts. Okay, so becoming an addict is a very, very normal thing when you do not want to experience what it is that you're feeling in this moment. Okay. Third thing that we do is we binge eat, meaning that we have this bunch of emotions that's there in our body, and we don't wish to experience those emotions anymore. So what we do instead is we stuff our emotions, thinking that if we push food down our throat and into our stomach, that that's going to digest it, but it actually doesn't. You just end up getting fat. Yeah, and that's not a bad thing, but I don't know if that's what you really want. Okay. Number four, we, instead of being vulnerable, we start to pick a fight with somebody else about something that could be possibly either mildly related or completely unrelated with another person. And we think that, oh, now the problem is aired and we've got it off our chest. No, it mostly isn't. Okay. Number five, instead of being vulnerable, what do? We become nonchalant and we play it cool. It's like, no, I'm fine. This. It's like, no, I'm all right. Everything's fine in my universe. All right. Doesn't work, guys. And it won't work for a long time because you're playing a charade. Number seven, we go to numbness, which is another favorite of a lot of people. So, what does numbness feel like? It's the feeling of no feeling. So, if I ask a person, what it is that you're feeling? Nothing. It's all fine. It's a little different from playing it cool. Playing it cool is where you're trying to cover it up. But the feeling of no feeling is a sense of emptiness. It's like, I can't feel anything. I don't know what it is. Yeah. But it's numbness. It's a very, 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 very common one. And we're going to deal with this one a little more. And the eighth one, I would like to actually get feedback from you. So there's a chat window here on the webinar. So please write down what are the other ways in which you try to be non-vulnerable in your life. So please write these down so that you become aware of the way you behave, so that only when you understand that you're not being vulnerable can you actually understand how to be vulnerable. So there's always a no before a yes. So for example, if I ask you, what do you want to be in your life? You say, I don't know. But what do you not want to be in your life? You'll probably give me a list. So this is the same thing. So what are the things that you do which is not vulnerable? You'll be able to tell me that better. So then I can tell you actually how to get there. So, what can we do instead to move closer to ourselves instead of doing all of these 7, 8 things that we normally do? What is it that we can actually do to move closer to ourselves? Okay. So, the first thing is acknowledgement. I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm lonely, I'm shameful, I'm guilty, I'm unhappy, I'm jealous, so on and so forth. Just label the damn thing. It's so much easier because you literally take like a breath of relief when you understand what it is and you call out what it is and you put the light of awareness on what it is. A simple checklist within to identify what it is that you're experiencing. And if you still don't get it, the best thing in the world that's going to tell you, your body. Your body is the barometer for your emotions. So let's do this right now. If you're up to it, let me take you through a quick awareness exercise so that you understand what emotion that you're experiencing in your life right now. So just take a deep breath, just relax. Okay, relax in the chair or on the couch or wherever it is that you are right now. Good. Now, internally, just take your awareness internally, and I want you to just scan your body from the feet upwards to your head. Just scan your body and notice any sensation of any tightness anywhere in your body. Yeah. The moment you sense a tightness, just describe it to yourself. Okay, this feels tight. This feels like there's no breathing in this area, or this feels like this is in pain, or any other sensation. Okay, good. Now, if that sensation had an emotion, which is guessing, okay, if that sensation had an emotion, what would that emotion be? Would it be anger, sadness, anxiety, fear, panic, jealousy, guilt, shame, regret, or something else? Good. Now that you know what the emotion is, dive into it. Let it expand, let it grow bigger, let it grow like 100 times bigger. And just breathe through it. Don't worry, it's not going to consume you. You are always in control of it. Okay, good. Now ask, what occurred for me to feel this way? And if you want to write that down, Probably write it on a piece of paper and a pen, or make notes on your phone. This is a very, very simple exercise because once you get the clarity, then you can actually do something about it. This is your first step in being vulnerable with yourself. This is you communicating with you. Yeah. It can be something like, I really wanted to cook dinner with my spouse, but they just wanted to be alone and they wanted to binge on Netflix. And I'm feeling what? Rejected, sad, and perhaps angry. Okay. It can be really as simple as that. And we tend to hold all of this in our body. So now that you have realized what it means to be vulnerable with you, let's look at how is it possible to be vulnerable with the other. Okay. Okay, so you can start by acknowledging how they may feel when you're expressing yourself. So communication with yourself, trust me, is far, far easier than communicating with somebody else, because here you have to widen your awareness and take in what the state of the other person is. Okay. You can't just go and throw up. You can't have a emotional and verbal diarrhea with them. It's like, hey, the last time I felt this. No, not really. Okay. Take into account what state of mind are they in. Are they in a space to listen to you right now? If they're busy, just let them know, hey, I really want to discuss something with you, so let me know when you have the time and space for it. Okay. Don't make it sound grave. It's not the end of the world, not yet. Okay. So create that space, create the time with them so that they're listening to you. Okay. So you can start with acknowledging how they're feeling when you're expressing yourself differently. So it's possible that you have never been like this before. Yeah. And they may find it quite surprising. They may be like, okay, why is this person like this? Yeah. Why are they being like this? You've never spoken to me like this in your life. Why are you saying these things? So if you're being different than what you were, you can say something like, I usually don't say things like this to you, and it may seem new to you, but I'm really trying to put effort in being more vulnerable with myself and with you because I love you very much, or you matter to me, or I care for you, or whatever it is. In that effort, I really want to express something about last night or yesterday or whatever. And then, you can state what the content is, state the emotion like we discussed before, and then state the content. Okay. Let's do an autopsy on one. So, what exactly are we doing with the other, and how is this vulnerability? We are first going to acknowledge that something about us is changing, and then we are voicing it. So, the other person is prepared. They're prepared for something different. This is you being kind and compassionate towards the other, not just launching truth bombs and truth missiles, hoping that they'll be okay with a sudden change in you. Second, then we are stating where we are coming from. So they understand why we are saying what we are saying. Now, this is very, very important because in all communication, all forms of communication in any part of the world, we forget why. We forget why we are saying what we are saying. Okay. We're almost always listening for the other person's why when they are talking, aren't you? Yeah. You're listening to what they're saying, but you're also trying to figure out what is it that they want from me? Why are they saying this? Okay. Then be clear about the emotion or the mood of the moment. Okay. So, oh, I was in a very romantic mood. I really wanted to watch an old movie with you, or catch up with you like we used to. That's an example. So here you use emotion to make a connection with the other. Everyone has this, and no one can deny us of having emotions. The last is the demand or the desire. That's what we call the content. Vulnerability does not mean you getting everything you want. Okay. Vulnerability means simply, in very simple language, without drama, stating exactly what state or what space you are in. It means being transparent. It makes having any kind of a hard conversation much, much smoother. This, if all of this applies to not say a loved one or a spouse or a friend, and it applies to say a colleague or a coworker, it could be something like this. Hey, XYZ, I really love working with you, and I think we have a great rhythm. But there are times when I feel like we're not quite on the same page, say, as far as submitting this on time. You know me, I'm super finicky about no delays, and I get that you are more chill about it. which I would really love from you. But till I get there, what can we do to bridge this gap so that we can work better together? Okay. It makes me go into a complete panic mode when I find that you've not given me the stuff yet and I have to submit this on time. It makes me go bonkers. I don't want to hate you. I really appreciate you. So, can we do something to change it? That can be one way of working with it. Okay. So here again, we identify how we are, we identify and appreciate how the other is, and the calling out of the mismatch and stating the desire that the mismatch is disrupting between you two. Also suggesting a way forward or keeping it open to the other to suggest a way forward. A critical part of vulnerability is being very aware and mindful of what it is, stating it clearly and acknowledging it in speech, calling it out to the other with no drama. I keep reiterating this because this is very critical. Most people feel that vulnerability means, oh, if I'm angry, you gotta take my anger. Not really. Okay, that doesn't really work because then people are listening only to the drama, they're not listening to you. The third and most important point. So, first one we did is being vulnerable with ourselves. The second is being vulnerable with others, that is anybody in the world. The third and the most critical one is listening with vulnerability. How do we do that? The difference between hearing and listening is basically depth. Okay, depth meaning that are you just hearing the person or are you actually listening to the person? Okay, there's a big difference in these two. Let me just check if there are more people who have logged in. Yes, we have a few more people. Okay, here we go. All right. Uh, Getting back. Mm, Hearing, what's the difference? So how does it show up? So hearing is peripheral, it's on the surface level. We hear, like, even if you're just sitting, you hear various different sounds at the same time: bird chirping, doorbell ringing, phone ringing, someone going to the bathroom, flush, somebody in the neighbor's house. So you're hearing all of these things. It's a cacophony, and it's sort of like a, how do I put it, it's like a canvas of different sounds, right? And you're just hearing it, you're just taking it all in. But listening is a very focused act. It involves taking things that are both said and unsaid. All the pauses and all the silences are also taken in. So when we express to the other with vulnerability, are they listening? Okay. Please understand that listening is something that you need to develop. It's like a muscle. You need to practice it in order for it to grow. Okay. When you are listening with vulnerability, it is about you being 100% compassionate with the other. You don't want to just unload and express with someone, right? So you want to be there when somebody is learning to be vulnerable with you. Yeah. So listening with vulnerability also begets the other, it invites the other to become vulnerable in their expression. If these two are practiced between two people, all conversations in the world will become butter smooth. When you practice vulnerability in expression, it automatically starts to seep into your listening as well. But to become more conscious with it, start listening without having answers in your head or rebuttals in your head, or when a person is saying something, you already have an answer ready. Don't do that. Try to calm yourself down and focus back on listening to them. Simply receive their space fully by being relaxed and letting it all come to you. Don't try to prove anything. Don't try to correct them. Don't try to improve them. Don't do anything other than listening. Just be invested fully in listening. And this is the vulnerability in listening. Now, the fourth and important point that I would like to share with you guys is about communicating where you're keeping the connection between the two people primary and the content, which is your expression, keeping that secondary. Now, when you communicate with the other, you communicate with society, you communicate with the world. It could be anybody in the world. This is the way to go. Okay? Whether it's you, family, friends, or anyone, it is all about acknowledging the connection first. Yeah, speaking about that and then going from there. Knowing your audience, who you're speaking to, that's number one. Expressing the connect you have with them, and then keeping the content of that communication to the basics without the clutter and without the drama. Yes, I know I'm repeating myself. If you want to have examples of how this is done, I suggest watching kids ask for something, especially those that are trying hard to say no to. Those that are very hard to say no to, and it will bring a smile to your face when they ask something of you. Of course, they do it their way because they're kids, but you can do it your way as an adult. So conversations will cease being hard anymore and start to become more intimate, to become more connected, to become more honest, more clear. And then this starts to become a habit. And then it moves on to become the entire foundation of your relationships, which gently start to change. Connections with people you desire to have around for many, many years will become the cornerstones and the major contributors of your life. They're not at the status of, I need to manage this relationship anymore. And they move into more about, they start to fuel you energetically and they become your support. And you become that with them. So I have shared what I have shared. And I would like to now invite you guys to ask questions. There are some people who have asked on the shell to chat. The seventh, sulk, become an addict, binge, become numb. I think, okay, so you've missed out one, which is where I have invited you guys to uh, let me know what it is. So somebody has written that I go into my shell, Shilpa. Okay, so there we go. So going into a shell is also the same as sulking. Okay. All right. So let's open it up. I would like to ask you guys if you have any questions. If not, I have received a bunch of questions. So does anyone have any questions? You can unmute yourself and start your video. Anyone? Meanwhile, I will also take a look. Hey, one video on Shilpa. Yes, madam.
Hi, Aditi.
Hi, sweetheart.
So I have a question. Why is it that the dynamics of some relations, like it's easier for some, like for me, I can talk for myself personally, it's easier for me to have a heart-to-heart conversation and to say what I really want to say to my partner and maybe not to my siblings or somebody else. So how does, I mean, are all relationships same, or communication in all relationships same that way?
Any two apples the same?
No.
Then there is something as simple as an apple can't be the same. How are you expecting complex things like relationships to be the same? Also, I have a question for you there, Shilpa. How long have you known your siblings?
For as long as I'm like
However old you are, XYZ years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how long have you known your spouse?
3-4 years.
3-4 years. Okay. So let's look at the history and the baggage in comparison. Yeah. So if, although at this point of your life your spouse may be closer to you, right, than your siblings. Yeah. There is a tremendous amount of emotional baggage with family. We all have it, whether we want to admit it or not, acknowledge it or not, and move ahead with it or not. We do all have it. Even in the most happiest and harmonious families, there is baggage. Yeah. So more often than not, we have already judged and slaughtered our siblings. That approachable, not approachable, can speak, can't speak, difficult to deal with, emotional, dramatic, chaotic, I can't speak, whatever. We've labeled all of them.
Yes.
And that is what stops us from going and speaking to them. So that's what I was trying to cover a while ago, that if you've never been vulnerable with a person, you want to start being vulnerable with them. The first thing you do is, you know what? I really want to talk to you about something. So can you make some time for me, please? And I know that I'm being a little different than I normally am. I'm trying to practice being vulnerable with myself and with you because you are very, very important for me. You're my sister, you're my brother. I love you very much. And I want to change this. And trust me, if they've been feeling the same way, they'll instantly bite. They'll take the bait. Yeah. So try that and see what changes. If there is something critical, important that you really want to share with them, that's a great icebreaker.
I want to ask another question, the same line of thought. You just told that if they are also waiting for the same opportunity or the same space to get into the same space, what if they are not? Then how do we deal with it? Should we pause at that point in time?
I would say always respect what the other one wants. Your first choice, like I said, kindness, compassion, number one. Yeah, your demands being met, bottom of the list. Okay, the idea here is that you're not childish. You want to be childlike. There's a difference. Childlike is vulnerability. Childish is being demanding and throwing tantrums. Yeah. So you want to state what you want to state, and then let the other decide where it goes.
Hmm.
If it doesn't go your way, it's fine. Let them know then when you're parting that I'm always here. If and when you change your mind, this space that I'm in right now, I will always offer this to you. So let them know that you're available, that your door is never shut. And when they feel inclined to it and the mood comes up or when it's the right time, they'll knock on your door.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Okay, guys. Is there anyone else who would like to ask a question? People not want to be seen on video? Okay. I'm just kidding.
Hi, Aditi.
Hi, who's that? Someone's got a very sweet
Shalini,
voice.
Shalini.
Hey,
So, yeah, so I had a question,
sure.
and this is more workplace related.
Mm-hmm.
That like with bosses, and with subordinates,
Mm.
sometimes it becomes very twisted and difficult to be vulnerable.
Mm.
And I mean, you have to wear a certain image, you have to go ahead and demonstrate or portray a certain persona at workplace. And I'm
Mm.
talking about corporate here.
Mm.
So, how does one bring, this a sense naturally to themselves when they are at their workplace?
Okay, cool. So, are we also speaking about probably work colleagues that you may not have that depth of connection with?
Sure.
Okay. So, if that is the case, then make what your team is about the connection. You know, make working for this organization the connection. Make the vision of this organization or the goal that you're working towards together the reason for the connection. And state that, hey, we all are working for the same thing. So, I really don't, I have experience being up in arms against you before, and I know you have too. What do we put that aside? Let's not be that way anymore. What can we do so that this can work better together? I don't want to have arguments with you. I don't want to have fights with you. I don't want emails going back and forth. Let's just work together. So do you have any suggestions on what we could do to make this really really rock? Let's be the team that does this, and let's make our bosses proud. Yeah. So maybe that could be a way using it. I left my corporate space like think 15, 16 years ago. But I know human behavior and it doesn't change too much. Yeah. So my assumption would be, if I'm not wrong, Shalini, that people who were that way then might still be that way now with each other. That really doesn't change very often.
Yep.
So that could be one of the ways in which you could, approach them. That because keeping the connection, like I said, it's literally just two parts. One is the connection, and the second is the content. These two form the two basic components or the two legs or the two foundations of vulnerability. And if you establish connection, content is very easy. Yeah. This is how you talk to people. This is how you sell. This is how you market. All of it comes under the same umbrella. Why are some services and products like, you just click on it, it's like, oh my god, they know exactly what I'm going through, they're feeling it, how do they know I need this, and then you click and you buy. Why does that happen? Because that's a huge amount of vulnerability in their sales communication. Yeah. So if they can do it, my question is, why can't we, for authentic communications, for authentic relationships? Yeah. So establish connect and find whatever that thing is that binds all of you. Speak that first, state that first, so that you are very clear where you stand. I go back to what we stated at the beginning of the webinar, that why are some people so much easier to be with and work with is because you have complete clarity where they stand with you. It's easy, you don't have to think too much, and then your communication flows from there. So establish that with people, and then the content is easy. Awesome. Okay, guys. If there are no questions, I'm just going to take a couple of minutes and go through the questions that some of you had sent. I want to address that. So I'm going to address all of them, whether they're applicable or not, and I'm going to give you the feedback on whether I'm going to answer them or not. So Maria sent, when you love someone deeply, but it's platonic, and you don't want intimacy with them, but you long for intimacy. So Maria, I'm not sure what your question is. If you can rephrase this and ask me in a question format, because I'm not understanding what it is that you want. Do you want intimacy or do you not want intimacy? And this is not the webinar to address this. I'm going to talk about something like this in the month of August in one of the later webinars. So I would urge you to, look out for it and enroll for that. Then we have Sarah from Canada. What would it take to discover the career path I desire? Okay, so this is a completely different topic, Sarah. It's not something I'm going to discuss now. This is something I'm going to pick up, in fact, next month. So just be on the lookout for that. Rajesh, you want to understand corporate politics. Okay, this is not a question. And it's a very, 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 very big topic. This is like Dr. Freud being asked whether he understands women. I would say that it requires the same kind of strength to understand corporate politics or any kind of politics. I'm not sure this is the right platform for it. And this is definitely not the webinar topic for it. Balinder, how does one speak freely? I'm assuming that that's freely. I think it's a typo. You have written freely. So I'm assuming it's freely. I have just spent the entire webinar talking about how to speak freely. The first is you connect with the person and then the content flows from there. Ishani, this is a good question. I feel like whenever I need to communicate or simply engage with someone, I digress, I beat around the bush and don't communicate that point well. People lose interest by the time I get to the actual message. Okay, so Ishani, I'm going to give you a very, very simple tool for this. I want you to play act. I want you to stand in front of the mirror and I want you to communicate to them as if you're standing in front of them. But I want you to communicate what it is that you want to communicate. And I want you to do it till you get it right. Okay. I want you to see the way you are in the mirror. I want you to hear yourself and repeat it again and again till you get it right, till you feel you've actually come to the point where you've got to the point. And then talk to those people. This is something that will help you to gain a lot more confidence in knowing that what you have to say matters. Because this is what I sense from what you've written, that there is a sense that you feel somewhere that what you have to say doesn't matter. And the only way you can get over it is repeat it to yourself again and again and watch yourself doing it in the mirror. I hope that answers your question. Garima, how to overcome a toxic relationship when you're extremely vulnerable? Okay, so this is something that a lot of people who have vulnerability keep complaining that they are in toxic relationships. I would say that it's not because of vulnerability, it's because of lack of boundaries. You have allowed yourself to be in a toxic relationship, not because you've been vulnerable. I repeat, it's because you haven't drawn boundaries. In the third week of August, we're going to deal with a webinar called How to Say No and why boundaries are very critical for people. I would genuinely suggest you attend that one because this question and a lot more questions related to this will be answered over there. There is Jazz, I love the name, who's asking how to say no to co-workers and higher authorities at work. This is a slightly tricky one, Jazz, because I don't know what it is that you're saying no to. Are you saying no to a direct order which will help the company, or are you saying no because of your personal issues? I need a little bit of clarity there. I don't know, Jazz, are you there on this webinar? No, I don't think she's there. Okay, so if you can message me that, I can probably help you with it. And last one, Prasenjit, how to manage the trauma that triggers your partner and makes him or her project his or her past upon you. You know what, Prasenjit? Practice the vulnerability I have spoken about today. And if the person continues to do the drama, all you have to say is, you know what? I have expressed to you very, very honestly everything that I wanted to share with you. The way you're being right now, I don't know how to deal with it. And every time you're like this, I become lost, I become hopeless, and I become helpless. And then I feel like you don't want to be with me. So if this is what you want to continue doing, I'm going to get up and go, and you can remain that way. Okay. So what you're doing with the person is you're calling out their BS. Okay. You know that they're doing drama and you're calling it out. Secondly, you're telling them that you have very clear boundaries and you will not tolerate it. Thirdly, it doesn't ever prevent you from being vulnerable again, because know that your vulnerability may have triggered it, but it's possible that it's time it got triggered. Don't be afraid to trigger other people. Don't be afraid of the consequences of being vulnerable, because if you're vulnerable, trust me, 100% of the time it works out in your favor, although it may not seem in that moment that it is. Have a little patience and have a little trust in yourself, Prasenjit. And I hope it turns out well. Okay, guys. So I think with that, I've answered a few of the questions. I'm just taking another moment to ask if there are any more questions. Otherwise, we will end today's webinar. Anyone else? No? Okay, hang on. There's a chat. Okay. Mayur, how can we put our words correctly and it didn't hurt the person whom we want to convey our message? Okay, so I can't tell you exactly what words to use every time, because I don't know what you want to say to the other person. But one of the ways is to simply do a checklist. You know, when you're communicating with them, just ask them, "Hey, I know I've said a lot, but I hope I haven't hurt you. Have I hurt you at any point? Please let me know if I'm saying anything hurtful, because I will correct that right away." That is vulnerability. Okay, so I hope that helps you, Mayur. In don't worry about using the right words or the correct words. That's not what this is about. It's where you're coming from and why you're coming from there. All right. I hope that helps you. All right, guys. So that comes to the end of having hard conversations. It's been a real pleasure in sharing all of this with you. And I hope you join us for next week's webinar. And I have forgotten what the topic is. But I will email you guys what the topic is, because I'm just so immersed in this one right now that I can't remember. All right,
the topic is the big B.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
And I have a question on that note, Aditi. Can I ask if that's okay?
Yes, please.
So Aditi, you know, this was a wonderful webinar, and thank you so much for enlightening with all the information that you gave.
Most welcome.
I just have one thing in mind, that, you know, sometimes people take vulnerability as their weakness.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that, you know, I've always felt that, you know, when you're too vulnerable, people tend to take you as too weak a person.
Mm-hmm.
So how to sort of be able to defend that point,
okay,
where people don't think of you as a weak person, but actually as more stronger person to be vulnerable, because it requires a lot of courage to be vulnerable, you know.
I think you've said it. You already said it. Vulnerable people are actually some of the strongest, most courageous people in the world. And if some people have a point of view that vulnerability equals weakness, trust me, don't bother to change it. Let them think what they want to think.
Even if they're important people.
It doesn't matter. How does it matter? You go on being vulnerable. Look, this is something I tell a lot of parents also, you know. Your children are not learning from what you teach them. Your children are learning from how you behave. 90% of kids are picking up who you're being rather than what you're teaching. And that's the same with other adults as well. So who you're being and what kind of a life are you living is actually telling them everything. So the day that they want to change, they will change. Until then, don't bother correcting people. Oh my God, that's a headache. That would give me a migraine.
Yeah, it does actually sometimes to me as well. That's why I asked.
Don't
because
bother.
It's so difficult.
My question to you is like, hey, do you not have better things to do in your life? Seriously, use your time.
No, it's just that some people are so close to you that you want them to understand you so much better, and then you go on a spree of trying to make them understand, and then you sort of get disheartened.
You know what? I'll tell you something. The ones closest to you will be the most difficult ones to change.
True, I agree.
Don't bother. You be who you're being. You be awesome. You be inspirational. If they want to take the bait, they will take it, and they will take it when it's their time.
Right.
Yeah, you love them anyway. Okay, tell them, hey, you know what? You're a judgmental ass, but I love your judgmental ass.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, Aditi, Seema here. Thank
Hey,
you so
Seema.
much.
Most
This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, but sometimes it's really tough for people who are highly emotional to be vulnerable.
Okay. You want to take a breath? Okay. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm assuming that you're referring to something more specific because it seems to bring on a lot of emotions for you, and it's fine. So if you're feeling emotional, my main suggestion to everybody would be everybody is on this webinar and everybody who's listening to this webinar in the future, please don't be afraid of your emotions. Don't. It's the most natural thing in the world. We are one of the very, very few creatures on this planet who has this gift. And we are able to create so much beauty in our lives because of this gift. And you don't have anything to be afraid of. If you're feeling sadness, then I'd say sit for an hour, listen to the most pathetic sad music, and cry your eyes out. Okay?
Yeah.
You know, like I remember I had this, my ex mother in law, she used to get these bouts of sadness. So her favorite film was, which was that, yeah, that Karan Johar film with, you know, the Saas Bahu when the parents are dumped by the kids.
Bagban.
Ha, that one. Oh my Lord. I would put on Bagban for her because she had that weird story in her head, okay? Because I knew what her triggers were. I used to tell her, sit here for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it takes. I'm going out. When I come back, I want you to have cried your eyes out. Okay. And I would come back home after 3 hours, hoping that there is a change. And when I walk in, she comes with me with this big smile. Her eyes are sparkling, her face is shining. I cried for 3 hours. I'm so happy. There you go.
The thing is, you know what?
So,
I never thought this would come up when I would be attending this.
yeah, well, life never really shows up the way you think it will.
You started with the webinar, and I was like, shit, what is this happening? What is happening?
Yeah.
And I am still not able to get it. I don't know what it is.
Not able to get what?
I don't know why is it coming up like that. There's nothing that I don't feel heard or I'm sad. I just don't know. Means I'm so I feel as if I'm so unaware of what I'm going through that.
Okay. So, Seema, what I want you to do is, you know, I made you guys do the exercise in between. Yeah, experiencing where in the body the emotion is. I want you to
exactly, and you want.
I want you to do that a few times.
I really didn't feel anything. I said, shit, what am I doing?
I know. That's why I'm asking you. You've hit the numbness point. So I would genuinely invite you to do that a few more times, Seema.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that'll really help.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. So there's some more stuff, very insightful. One question is when to know when someone is being vulnerable or being. So when someone is, okay, here's the question. When do you come to know when someone is being vulnerable or when they're doing drama or emotional bullying? And also how to be sure that when we are vulnerable, we are not being self-righteous. So self-righteous sounds a little different, okay? Self-righteous comes from this place that no one knows better than I do. I know everything. If you are feeling that, just check in with yourself. If that's what you're feeling, keep your mouth shut at that time. I would say go back, review if this is really what you want to communicate. Okay. And then speak what it is that you really are feeling. Even in self righteousness, under that, there is always something. Why are you self righteous? You know, what did you not get in your life? Were you never acknowledged by your parents? Did no one tell you that this is, you know, it's okay to be relaxed and chill? I mean, just find out what it is. Why are you the way you are? And then you can also be vulnerable with that. And you can say that I know I might sound self righteous at times, and I am self righteous at times. And I'm hoping that in this moment, I'm not being that. but I do want to communicate this with you, and then go on with it. Yeah. So acknowledge, call it out. If someone is doing drama and emotional bullying, you will see it. They will be agitated. They will be physically agitated. They'll be crying. They'll be yelling. They'll be screaming. That's not vulnerability. That's emotional drama. That's when you know that, hey, stop, talk to the hand. I do not wish to listen to this right now. Can you please talk to me, communicate with me when you have calmed down? Or if you want me to be here while you're ranting and raving, I'm here for you. Okay? You can scream, cry. I will be here. I will offer you the space to be that. And that's fine too. All right. So I hope that answers your question. And with that, we come to the end of this webinar. I had a rocking time. Okay. And I will see you guys next time for the big B. Thanks for reminding me that, which is all about breakups, to have them, to not have them. And when we have them, how do we walk away with grace and dignity and not leave a apple cart upturned behind us? So thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. I love you all, and I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Bye.